I was hauling trash behind the Meridian Crown when a man hit the marble steps like a dropped statue. The sound cut the evening clean open, people froze, security surged, and I did what my grandma taught me long before I learned to mind my place. I went to the one on the ground. He was tall, expensive, the kind of rich that smells like cedar and silence, but his lips were gray, and his breath was wrong, shallow and sticky, like it couldn't find a way out. The head guard planted a heavy hand on my shoulder and said, "Back up, ma'am, this is secure," and I said, "His airway isn't tilt your chin, sir. That's it. Breathe." Lila, the assistant with the black suit and red lipstick, snapped, "Don't touch Mr. Vale. If something goes wrong, it's on you," and I looked right at her and said, "Something is going wrong." They cared about optics. I cared about oxygen, you know what I mean? Nobody called 911, so I did. I loosened his tie, kept his head back, counted his pulse like a prayer. I remembered by muscle. For a second, his eyes found me, a stranger in a red uniform, and he whispered "Tay," then went under again. In the ambulance, the paramedic shouted numbers I knew from church, clinics, blood sugar fluids, hypotension. The crew said his name like static, Adrian Vale, and he squeezed my fingers like a man falling off a cliff, deciding a janitor's hand is better than the rocks below. I told him the truth I tell scared kids. You're not alone, and yeah, that happened to Billionaire believing the woman everyone else pushed aside. At St. Helena, they slid him into a private room so fast you'd think time had a donor. I stayed in the hall with a vending machine, coffee going cold, because he asked me to, and when he woke up, he saw me and tried to smile with a face that had learned hunger the hard way. "You stayed," he said, voice like sandpaper. And I said, "You asked. I try not to fail requests from unconscious strangers." Dr. Rivera walked in, silver hair, soft eyes, and told him the truth. Clean, severe malnutrition, so on top of a motility disorder. You're starving, we stabilized you, but your body is still bargaining with itself. He listened like a man who funds wings, but hates being the one in the bed. Then he told me what pride hates to say: eating hurts, not the chewing, the staying. My grandma May had that. I said she called it the season where food forgot her name, and instead of a lecture, I pulled a wrinkled paper from my pocket. Quiet rice broth and a poached egg, cooked slow talk to the pot, so your body knows it isn't a fight. And he almost laughed. "You talk to rice," and I said, "I talk to people, the rice listens." When they discharged him VIP fast, I'd already worked a diner shift and dropped my daughter Joy at Mrs. Alvarez's. I walked into a kitchen that smelled like lemon and money, and met Marco the chef, who carried his knives like a diploma. "We have plans from the nutritionist, powders, microgreens, horseradish, salmon." And I said, "Today we need warm broth and patience." I rinsed rice till the water ran clear, set bones to simmer with a splash of vinegar. That pulls the goodness, my grandma would say. Cracked an egg into a quiet whirl, and told Joy on her little voice memo, "Mama's cooking the kind that tells your belly we're safe." We sat at a small table that had never hosted anything plain. He lifted a spoon with hands that shook the way a body shakes when it doesn't trust you anymore. Took one sip, waited, then another. Waited again, the fear came loud, and then nothing, no revolt, no spike, just a breath he hadn't had in months. "I feel hungry," he said, like a man surprised by rain on a drought field. And the tears came mine too, and Marco quietly set the fancy knives down and asked if I could show him how to make it next time. Evenings turned into a ritual. 6 o'clock, a pot, humming on the stove, Joy doing homework, Adrian learning how to be a person, not an asset. Rivera tracked numbers and frowned at how fast they got better. Marco traded microgreens for carrots, then leeks, then pride in a soup that sits right. He told me about boardrooms where love measures in profit, A father who used dinner as a leash, rooms where every bite was negotiation. I told him about double shifts and rent math, and Joy singing to toast like she invented breakfast. We traded truths, and that's where healing took root. Word slipped through the marble world fast as gossip in church. A pharma CEO named Daniel showed up saying, "I don't believe in this, but I can't keep not eating." And I said, "I don't sell belief, I serve soup." He talked about his wife, how the house stayed cold after the funeral, no matter the thermostat. He ate half a bowl before the tears, and the other half after left a check I didn't ask for and a thank you I won't forget. A media mogul, Serena walked in with a loud laugh and a stomach that locked the second she wasn't alone. I made grilled cheese and tomato soup the way my grandma did, butter both sides, patience in the pan. We didn't mention ratings. We talked about her abuela's vinyl tablecloth, the red one with lemons. She finished her sandwich and sent flowers with thorns on purpose to say she could hold life again without bleeding. Not everybody clapped. Victor, the advisor, came by with a deck and a grin. "You've tapped a need. We can scale this clinic's certification. Imagine 1,000. Naomi's and I said, "There's one me, but there are a million tables families forgot how to use. They don't need a brand. They need an invitation." He leaned in. "Do you want to help a dozen a month or thousands a quarter?" And I told him the thing he didn't put on his slides. Numbers don't swallow soup, people do. Dr. Rivera called with a different pitch. "I've got patients who can't pay for consultants. Would you take some on a sliding scale if I track outcomes?" "Yes," I said. "Let the rich checks float the rest," and Adrian smiled. Not charity, justice. Then came the twist, Dalton Pierce, the kind of rich that arrives with a convoy and leaves dents in the driveway. First, a leather folder that clicked shut like a trap. Exclusive services, $25 million a year, estate, staff, privacy. And you know what privacy means in that world. Ownership, I stared at the number, then at Joy's math worksheet right next to it. 2 languages of enough arguing in my kitchen. Adrian said soft, "Whatever gives you peace, I want that," and tried not to bleed hope on the floor. Dalton showed up anyway, stepped into our morning like it was a meeting. "Ms. Brooks, I can give you facilities in every major city, staff trained in your methods, excellence at scale." And Joy walked in with her backpack and said, "Sir, are you here to eat? Or to talk too loud during breakfast? Because Mama says mornings are for gratitude." And for the first time, his smile slipped. My methods, I told him, are rice that doesn't rush, and questions that don't sell you back to yourself. "How many can you help from this kitchen?" he said. And I said, "Exactly as many as show up." 30 million plus equity, he pushed, and I set his coffee down and said, "You keep raising the number like it's going to buy my answer." Dr. Rivera stepped through the door like a closing argument. Daniel's depression scores down 80%. Serena's panic attacks cut in half. None of it happened in a building. It happened because someone sat at a table and was treated like a person. Dalton stood. "You're turning down a chance to change the world," and I held his gaze. "No, I'm choosing the way I change it." He left with less noise than he brought, and the life that came after wasn't perfect. But it was true. We started a foundation where private clients fund public meals, churches in Detroit, added Wednesday soup and stories. A clinic in El Paso dragged a long table into the waiting room. A grief group in Boise met around casseroles, and the silence finally broke. A filmmaker, Maya, showed up with curiosity instead of a pitch, and filmed a surgeon named Ava eating lasagna without her hands shaking. For the first time since the bad night, the documentary didn't go viral. It did something better. It found the right people and handed them permission. We married in a borrowed garden under string lights. Joy throwing petals like she was paying our future. In advance, people we had fed brought food to feed us back. Marco grilled chicken like a sacrament. Adrian's vows were simple. You saved my life with a bowl of rice and the truth that I matter. I promise to spend my life making sure you never forget. You do too. Mine were simpler. You're not a project, you're my person. Let's keep cooking. Here's the part nobody likes on the internet. Not every day glows, some pots burn, some sessions fall flat. Some people treat the table like a trophy, and I have to tell them I'm not their event planner. Two left. Angry, that's all right. The table doesn't kneel, the board. Still side-eyes Adrian when he chooses lunch with a human over a meeting with a fund. Dalton opened mindful dining clubs with a subscription and a dress code. Folks send me the menus. I send back a photo of our chipped plates and remind them the recipe is not the dish, it's the room. One Tuesday, the doorbell rang, and it was Cole, the same head of security from that first night. No black suit, now just a flannel. And eyes red in the way of suns. My mother stopped eating after Dad. I didn't know where to take her. That wasn't a facility, I thought maybe here. And I remembered his hand clamping my arm. The way fear makes people mean, I stepped aside and said, "Come in, we're cooking." So here's my question for you. If you were on those marble steps, who would you have trusted first, the woman in red, or the man with the earpiece? Should kindness get a seat in emergency decisions, or wait behind protocols? Have you ever misjudged somebody because of a uniform, a job title, a zip code? And if you did, how did you fix it? Drop your take in the comments. Argue with me about whether love can scale, or if it has to stay small to stay real. Tell me about a table that changed you, and if you're hungry, for food or for a reason to keep trying, say so. Someone here can cook, someone here can listen. Let's find out who.